Well, it is my pleasure to have today's podcast interview with Mariel Hemingway. I am so in honor of, in awe of you, my friend. I'm talking to you right now. But for those of you who are listening, Mariel is an accomplished actress, author. She is also an award-winning documentary filmmaker. And I'm going to add another little bit, and that is I would call you a warrior of the light. Because something I'm so excited to talk with you about is your courage to share your story and reflect on your history to help others, not only as a process of self-discovery for yourself, but really to share. And I've been so moved by your work. So thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure, truly. I'm looking at the background. Like, what was I thinking? That
No,
there's a
I
portrait.
love your background. I think that's actually
So
one of the
weird.
coolest things about all of the
I
things
have
that
a
we're doing
portrait,
on
but
Zoom.
it's a friend of mine that did that, and so I put it in my office.
I
but
think it's
realized,
so cool.
like,
I think it's
what's
super
going on?
cool.
It looks a little vain, but whatever.
No,
Anyway.
I love it. In fact, so at the time of this recording, we are towards the end of April 2020. We are all
I know,
hunkering down at
right?
home in the midst of this crazy coronavirus. And last night, my boys, I have two boys, and my husband and my boys were watching the NFL draft. This is something that interests me zero, but all they were talking about was seeing people's homes. Like, oh, look at that, and to see the the young people that were getting
Right.
signed, and I think there's a very strange, sort of odd experience that we're all having, which is tearing down the illusion and really seeing people. And I think, your background as an actress in particular, as well as, my experience way back when, you can see that sort of illusion of what people are pretending or what they're putting out in the world, the sort of myth of celebrity,
Yeah.
and then the truth
Yeah.
of that great equalizer. We're all at home. Well, not all of us. Some of us are working like crazy on the front lines of this, but it
Yeah.
is interesting. So it's a privilege to have
It
this
is
sort of
interesting.
intimate connection. Because
Yeah. No, I think it's wonderful. I think it's wonderful because I think like you said, it's a great equalizer, but it's also it's humbling, and it takes all the mask off,
Mhm.
and we become partners in this. And it's made the world small, and I really do believe that there's an understanding of a collective, that we are all in this together. And the more we can think uh think kind, loving thoughts, the better everything's going to be. And together, it's not
Mhm.
about isolation to isolate and to become more yourself, but you can become more of a connection. So
Mhm.
even though we can't hug and go meet our friends, which is totally depressing some days,
Yeah.
or my daughters, um I feel like there's more of a connection with people, from across the world. I mean,
Yeah.
everybody's in the same situation. It's profound, and it's actually kind of exciting in many ways. I mean, I look out, for me, nature is such a big part of my life. Like, what does it look like outside? So this morning, for instance, day whatever it is of
Right.
quarantine, the sky is so blue.
So
It's
blue.
so quiet. It's just tangible, the effect that this is having. How funny is that? Okay, there, the cat is going under the blanket.
So
Fine.
busy.
Okay.
I love
Very
that.
good. Um, in case you're bored,
No,
he
yeah, in
will
case you
entertain.
want to just check
Um,
out what the cat's doing. I love it. It's all good. It's perfect.
but it's just that sense that the earth has been given a break.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, literally, when you go on the freeway, when you have to go to the grocery store or do whatever you have to do, that sense that there's a stillness, and the earth is just so grateful. I just
Yeah.
know it. It's like, but how can we take this into the world will come back. We
Yeah.
will be in a state of, we'll be all rushing around and crazy again. But can we take some of this slowness? Can we take some of
Mm.
this stepping back? And can we take that into our lives? Because that's been the gift. The gift is,
Absolutely.
how are we connecting with our fellow man, all of our fellow men, you know?
Yes, absolutely. And I think one thing that I so appreciate about you, and I actually felt it the first time I met you, was when you were giving a speaking engagement at a local women's group here in Los Angeles, and I was excited to meet you and hear about the book that you were releasing at the time. But what I was taken with was your grounded presence, and it had an energy to it. So it wasn't about just the fact that, yes, you are a statuesque, like 6 foot tall, accomplished woman. So there's that. But in talking about
Mhm.
the energy, and when I read
Right.
more of your work, that connection to nature really has been a driving force, a healing force in your life. I'm just curious about how your own practice with nature. I know you're a big hiker now, but when I was reading your book, Out Came the Sun, hearing about even as a child that escaping into nature was really a wonderful refuge for you. I mean, even if it's just in
Yeah.
the neighborhood, how do you
Yeah.
make that a practice in your life now? I mean, you just commented on nature, but nature as a
Well,
teacher.
yeah, I mean, I think, my life partner, Bobby Williams, who I also wrote a book with called Running with Nature, but
Hmm.
we talk about how nature is one of our best teachers.
Hmm.
Nature is never going to change. It's always there. It never, it has this power. I mean, I'm watching, it's really windy today, and I'm watching the trees. There's, and they're moving, they are so fluid. They're so active. And I think that that's a metaphor for how we have to step into our lives with fluidity, with the ability to move wherever life takes us, where the wind goes. We have to take the weather, we have to address the seasons of our lives. We have to take it all in. But nature just has, I mean, I hike every day. I being outside, I mean, for instance, I wake up in the morning and I watch a sunset every single day of my life. Um, and at sunrise,
Hmm.
sunset. I try to do that, but always watch a sunrise,
Wow,
unless it's,
beautiful.
and we have this little sandbox outside, just over there. And the sandbox, we're able to ground in. So we sit in the sandbox, we
Mm,
watch the sunrise, we're totally quiet and still, and we meditate. I do Wim Hof breathing. I
mm.
do. So that connection, that immediate connection to the earth, very first thing that you do during your day, it's such a great way to start your day, first of all. And the intention is so clean and so pure. And I always believe that, I really believe that how you start your day is imperative to the
Yeah,
kind of day that you're going to have. Also,
so true.
what the thoughts that you think before you go to sleep are also incredibly important. How do you program the brain so that, because we're a computer, we're humans, but we're also, we are programmed. We are programmed by our environment. So if the last thought of the day is, I believe that something great, something wonderful is going to happen to me, and you keep saying that, or
Yep.
whatever, or I love myself, or I'm going to have the best podcast ever, or whatever,
Yeah,
and you let that go into your sleeping
sure.
state, that informs the next day. And then when you start that day by cementing that in with positive thoughts, but also a real sense of, surrounding yourself with light, and intention of great and good things happening. I think especially during the time that we're in, it's
Mm,
important for all of us to take responsibility for everything that's happened. So if
yep.
all of us have good intention and loving intention and intention for peace and kindness and all that stuff, I think that we can manifest it as a collective,
That's
and
why
we're
we are
powerful.
connected. I love it. I
Yes,
absolutely love it. Yeah.
so good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, I thank you so much for that. And I think, having really read your story, watched your story, I think that it's if for people who don't know, this wasn't always a practice for you. This wasn't like you popped into the world with all these skills and you were surrounded by a family that, utilized all these skills for personal development. So it's easy for people maybe who don't know your story to just think, well, that's easy for her. She's a
Right.
celebrity and she, lives in a beautiful
Right.
place. And I live in, New
Right.
York City right now. But I think that I'd love to highlight a little bit of your journey to pull back the curtain a little bit, because
Okay.
I think, and just, because I think for some people, you can project a story which creates this gap that says that's easy for them, but it's impossible for
It's
me
impossible
because,
for me.
right,
I
because I'm
understand.
stacking all these things. And I actually think what's so remarkable about you is here you are standing is this, in this, self-discovery path, and also in a practice that is really changing your life and has changed your life. But it was your journey and commitment to that path and the courage to
Mhm.
actually share that path that makes it really a possibility for anybody in whatever situation you are to make a decision to change your life and to find some,
Absolutely.
find tools. So can you share some of, just for people who may not be familiar with your own story, um,
Yeah. Well,
what that looked like?
I come from an amazing family, as people may or may not know. My grandfather, Ernest Hemingway, one of the greatest writers of the 20th century,
Mm-hmm.
um, still will probably go into many centuries to come. I mean, he's this great creative man. My sisters, incredibly smart and incredibly creative. My grandfather's father was a doctor, and on my mother's side, it was a pharmacist, and there's a lot of, and my mother's side of the family comes from Idaho. Anyway, um, so great creativity, great notoriety comes from that side, comes from both sides of the family. But they were wrought with mental health issues, addiction,
Mm-hmm.
suicide. I come from 7 suicides. So my grandfather, Ernest Hemingway, committed suicide. His father committed suicide. My grandmother, Ernest's first wife, father committed suicide. A great uncle, a great aunt, a cousin, an uncle, and my own sister, Margot, took her life.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that. And growing up in a home where my father was the son of this great writer and never felt that he had achieved that kind of notoriety, or it just was hard to live under the shadow of
Sure.
him. And my father was a brilliant man, but how do you live and become who you want to become?
Mm.
Also, he became a writer, which was like, dude, really? You might want to do something else. Anyway, my dad was really good looking. I said, you should have become an actor. But anyway, he was under that. My mother had lost her first husband. Anyway, everybody was depressed and messed up, and they drank a lot.
Mm.
My boyfriend Bobby was looking. We just sold a house in Idaho. Believe it or not, we sold a house during this weird time. Anyway, he was packing things up and he was looking at old letters, and I was like writing to my mom, when I was a little kid, dear mommy, I hope you have a better day. I hope that you didn't drink tonight. And I'm just like, wow, I had forgotten that. I know I wrote about it, but it was like, wow, I
Wow.
realized that there was this, and so many people have this. It's not like, oh, this is unique to me. So many people have grown up in families of addicts and people that are depressed or having issues, and you survive it because you don't know anything different.
Right.
So my upbringing was beautiful because I lived in Idaho, which brings us back to the nature aspect of it, and that was my solace. The
Mm.
only thing that I could absolutely know for sure is that when I opened the door and went outside, especially during the summer, with my shoes off and got on my bike and went into town and went into the river and, spent the entire day outside, that nature was there to say, you're okay, I've got you. And
Oh,
I believe that to this day.
Mm.
I didn't know that at the time. I didn't probably
Yeah.
know that into my 40s.
Yeah.
And now I'm well into my 50s. Well, into my 50s. And it just, it's just extraordinary to me that we are given the tools that we need very early on. And it's about recognizing that they were always there. So
Yeah.
my whole thing is like, it doesn't matter what your story is, what you come from, as long as you acknowledge that story and come to kind of take responsibility for it. Like, if the truth is that we do choose our parents, I don't know, maybe we do. And I think
Yeah.
we probably do, because we need to learn the lessons that we need to
Right.
learn in this lifetime and all that. So if that's the case, then really dig into where you come from, because
Mm.
there's nothing scary about digging into the past.
Mm.
The past memories cannot hurt you. And I
Yeah.
think that's what people's fear is about looking at things that make us uncomfortable. It doesn't matter what it is, abuse, whatever it was, it can't hurt you as a memory. It can
Mm.
be
Triggering.
chilling, it can scare you. Yeah. But those things, that's a healing
Yeah.
tool as well.
Right.
Sometimes
Because
those triggers are good because they get you through something. Because to get past fears and to get through obstacles in your life, you really have to address where they come from. And they come from the trauma that we have been dealt in the early years of our life. That's just the truth of human beings.
yeah.
What happens between 0 and 6, kind of, we keep reinventing versions of it throughout our life. And
Yes.
until you really get clear, and I'm still like, really, I'm still doing that. Like, but
Yeah.
it just means you're not quite done. It gets
Yeah.
easier though. Those,
Absolutely.
it's why I love by the way, love these wish beads. Thank you so
Yay.
much.
You're welcome.
I had to close mine tighter because I didn't quite get it closed. But it leads me to that, because that's the kind of stuff that you want to do in your life. You want to
Mm.
take all where you came from and all that stuff, but to have your wishes or your dreams come true, you've
Mm.
got to dig in. You've got
Yeah.
to dig into
Do a
the
little bit of
past,
work.
create it. Yeah, you do have
Yeah.
to do a little bit of work,
Just a
and it's
little.
okay.
Yeah.
It's not, I mean, nothing comes without, the whole concept of the 10,000 hours.
Yeah.
It's like, nobody wants to hear it.
Nobody
But
wants
if
to
you
hear
really
it.
think about it, nobody really wants to, you're like, I have to do
Yeah.
10,000 hours of that in order to get, to whatever.
Yeah.
But the truth is, what a blessing that is. Because,
What a blessing.
and if you really look at your life, you realize there's many areas of your life that you put that 10,000 hours in.
Uh-huh.
Start to acknowledge it. Oh my God, look at me. I've done that. I've done that.
Yeah.
I've done that. I mean, I put so many, way more than 10,000 hours. I need to be with some of my issues.
No, I too. I mean, it's funny. You don't come to this work. You don't come to the commitment of whether it's meditation, self-discovery, putting things out in the world that you believe are going to help others. You don't come into that without having done loads and loads and loads of work,
Oh
personal
my
work,
God.
a commitment, time. And I think that other piece about time is so fascinating, both going
Yeah.
backwards and reflecting and kind of mining your own experiences and say, like, who am I? Who is that voice inside my head that is the critic or the
Yeah.
cheerleader or the naysayer or
Yeah.
whatever? And where did that come from? But then also the idea that we live in this immediate, like we want an instant gratification. But the truth is that you don't actually appreciate something that comes so easily that you didn't enjoy the blood, the sweat, the exertion of the path. And I would say, like, whether it's climbing a mountain or skiing down a hill
Yeah.
or writing a book or making a documentary, it's like the
Yeah.
experience of it, the rolling your sleeves up is the kind of most delicious part of it. Even when it's
Absolutely.
hard, and for some
Absolutely.
reason people think it's that they're avoiding that, but what they're avoiding, in my opinion, is giving themselves permission to wish, or permission to begin, or permission to ask, what do I really, really want? And instead we stay in the concept of, I can't have it. Life's not fair. I got a bad, shake in life, or the just
Yeah.
that waiting place. I think Dr. Seuss has that great
Yeah.
book, Oh, the Places You'll Go. And there's this terrible
Yeah.
place called the waiting place. And I think that,
Yeah.
people, your work that you put out into the world, in a way, sort of like Wishbeads, is this idea of teasing people out of their darkness to say, come, life is messy and it can be tricky, but there are tools for you, like nature, like self-reflection, like healing, like meditation, like good food, mindfulness,
Yeah.
that are at your fingertips. Just use them. And
100%. We
yeah.
have total ability to make all of our dreams, wishes, whatever come true. All of our goals are achievable if you take responsibility for everything that you do. Just
Mhm.
like you said, how do you wake up in the morning? What are you eating? Do you drink enough water? Do you connect in nature? Do you do this? Are do you think kind thoughts about yourself, number 1, and
Mhm.
about others, number 2? Do you kind of cultivate an environment of kindness and love and compassion for yourself and then for others, because that's when the goals that you set become manifest. and
Yeah.
and people are so afraid to make goals or wishes or dreams and write them down and be responsible for them because they're so afraid to fail. And we live in a society, we don't like failure,
Right.
but failure is only, it's only a stepping stone towards success.
Yeah,
It's only
absolutely.
another reason, another place that you don't have to go. Oh, well, that didn't work. Or that wasn't right. We have to
Right.
see each, s- you know, and sometimes they're so daunting, the
Yeah.
obstacles. They
Yeah.
really just feel like, I cannot do this. This is
Yeah.
insane. But the truth is, once you get pulled away from the intensity of the
Right.
emotion of
Right.
something that's happened in your life, you can always go, I see where it fits. If you're
Yeah.
willing to look at it. And then
Definitely.
next time it just comes up and it's not so bad, you
Yeah,
know?
because you've already had, and I don't know
Yeah.
about you, but I'm about to turn 48 in a few weeks, and I can reflect on my life in these different chapters of my career, and I can see how much I worried about my acting career, and I was, did I make the right choice, and is this the right profession for me? Or then I built a teaching career, and I was, and I was constantly assessing and assessing and assessing. And now that I'm older and I'm almost in like a third phase of my career, building Wishbeads actually while still teaching. And I'm so grateful that I now have more life experiences to draw from, including, and
Yes.
actually more specifically, not the successes, but most certainly the challenges. And
Totally.
knowing that I feel more free, more in my body, more authentic, more alive now, than
Yeah.
I did then, because there is the benefit of time and challenges and failures, which actually turned out to be brilliant opportunities of pivoting, and
Yeah.
and there's joy in that, which makes me actually more excited about aging and what comes next, because if this is the direction that it's going, awesome, like what a privilege. And I think
Yeah.
that sharing that, I don't know, I love the podcast How I Built This, because especially
Yeah.
as a
I do too.
entrepreneur, the stories of failure it's every single
It's
person.
everything. Every
Yeah.
single one. Every
Yeah.
single one, you're like, oh, wow.
Right.
They had nothing. They thought it was over,
Yeah. Yeah.
They went to some show that they managed to scrape up enough money and,
Yeah. And they're
like,
standing in
then it
line
just
and
all goes
somebody talks
down.
to them and introduces them to something. And that is part of why I wove that into the Wishwork, which is the 21 days after you make your wish. And I would love to hear about your intentional practice too. But this idea of what we are paying attention to, and you touched on this so beautifully, the what we are focusing on becomes the narrative of our lives. And if you are beginning
Yes.
with the intention of the loving dialogue with yourself, with yourself, and
Yeah.
the sensory input that you're putting into your mind wherever you are, it's a huge determination of how you feel, the actions you take, the perspective you have on
100%.
life. And so the 21-day wish work is really about simple things to build that muscle of what you're paying attention to, what you're taking action towards. But I was so also curious because I know you have lots of meditation practices that you shared a little bit earlier just today. But what other kinds of intentional work do you do or have you done that that helps you stay, positive and moving towards your next goals?
Well, I've done so much work. Um, I've done a lot of work. It's just for me, it's really always about being really clear about where you are right now.
Mhm.
Being very honest about your situation, and 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 honest about how you got there. There's no blaming anyone else for something. It doesn't matter what. I've been stolen from and all that stuff. But how do I participate in allowing that to happen?
Mhm.
So a great deal of my intentional work is taking responsibility for everything, because we are only where we are because we set it up that way. And
Yeah.
sometimes that's a hard pill to swallow, because sometimes you're like, oh, I wouldn't, like
Why
I
would I
mean,
want this?
no,
Why did I do
it's
this to myself?
wrong that somebody stole from you or whatever, but yeah, but where were you not paying attention? Whatever the
Mhm.
story is, those are the things that you have to dig into, so that when you move forward, you can move forward without that. That's what I love about this quarantine. It's time to let go of what's not working, because you really have the time to see what's not working. You really have the time to write in a journal and say, wow, I just, all of these things, um, I can let go of. They served me at a time, but they don't serve me now. And
That's
I
right.
think that's really important. Your work, 21 days of taking a new intention, of taking a new way of being, whether it's I'm going to eat differently for 21 days, or I'm going to change my breakfast for 21 days, because
Yeah. Or
that's a
get up
way
with
to
the sunrise and watch and meditate in front of the
yeah,
sunrise.
I'm going to meditate for 5 minutes for
Mhm.
21 days, whatever it is, because as you're following knows, 21 day it takes 21 days to change, to
Mhm.
create a new habit, and and get rid of an old one.
Mhm.
So it's a beautiful sort of intention. That's great intention work. I don't know if mine's as specific. I mean, there's so many things I do. It is about connecting in nature. It is about how I eat. It is about how I think.
Mm.
Um, I think the biggest thing for me, as I'm 10 years older than you, so I'm going to be 50. I'm going to be 59 this year, which, it's weird. I'm like, I'm going to be 60. Holy crap. Wow. Because I don't feel that way. I
Yeah.
don't feel that in my body. I feel it in my soul, in a sense that I've got a lot of story and a
Mhm.
lot of experience. And some of the story has led to great experience, and some of the story can be let go of too. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
Like the whole story of suicide and prevention of even though that's part of my story, I've used it because now I'm producing a show about suicide prevention for teenagers.
Oh,
Um,
that's
I
amazing.
yeah. So
That's
I've
amazing.
turned the story into something that can be productive. So sometimes we can use the story
Yeah.
as a way to turn kind of what it becomes kind of what was in a way fiction, because it's just something that happened in the past. So it no longer exists, into something that can be a reality that can actually help change lives. At least I hope so.
Yes. And I
So
mean, can we go back to this idea that I mentioned? And I'm just going to just put this back out there again, that you're a warrior of the light, because I think it takes a lot of courage to not just share your story, but I wasn't even aware that you're taking that and helping others. And I think that's so powerful. And I thank you for that. Because one of the things that very lightly they're touching on in the news right now is the mental health crisis that is happening in the face of
Oh, it's going to
coronavirus.
be, if this goes on much longer,
Yeah,
it's going to take a very heavy toll
very
on
heavy
people.
toll. Right.
Because
And
people that don't have means, I mean, let's just face it, if you don't have money coming in and you
right.
have no way to feed yourself and there's no way, and we're
No,
not getting government help, I mean, those are real
very
issues. Those
real.
are real
Right.
problems
Right.
that
Right.
people, you can't wish them away,
Right.
but you do have to come up with solutions. That being said, at the same time, the universe is here to make us win. It does want, God, whatever you believe in,
Right.
whatever is your belief system,
Mm,
it does want you to succeed.
yes.
So even though things can be so scary, and I've been there, trust me, I've been there financially, I've been there like, like in a big way, not joking. I'm not just saying that. They're saying, oh yeah, sure, Mariel Hemingway, you were,
Oop, I think we've got a
you
little
have,
bit. Hold on one.
it's
Okay.
having a belief that you, oh, did you lose me?
No, I think, are we back? Can you hear me? Can
I
you
can
hear
hear
me?
you fine.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
My connection got a little bit funny, but I just fixed it.
Oh,
Sorry
no
about
worries.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, I can hear you fine. So, I truly believe that the universe conspires to help us, because in the darkest of times, if you could just hold faith and belief in yourself that the right things are coming to you. It doesn't mean that you don't put out feelers and do all you can do. You throw
Yeah.
so much,
Yeah.
you throw so much pasta against the wall to see what will stick.
Right.
You
Right.
have to throw everything out there, but something will, because we're not designed to be abandoned
Yeah. Or
or
to
not taken
suffer.
care of.
Yeah.
But it's scary times.
Yeah.
So back to, yes, mental health is a big issue, and it's so important. I mean, not just for teenagers. I mean, I've got a friend who has uh a high school student that doesn't get to have a graduation.
Yeah.
There's a whole 2020 graduating class that doesn't get to graduate,
Yeah.
doesn't get
Yeah.
to throw their little hat in the,
Yeah.
I never did that, so I
Yeah.
don't know what that's like.
Yeah. No,
but
my
that's,
son is supposed to
there's little
graduate from.
heartbreaking things. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
No, my son is supposed to graduate from elementary school. And he was,
yeah.
there was all these special activities that were planned around it. And it's interesting to navigate both honoring his disappointment and, missing his baseball season and
Yeah.
missing his friends
Yeah.
and missing his grad trip and missing all of that. And you have to honor the feelings of that and then also plant the seeds of the bigger thing that's happening now
Yes.
and how
Yes.
what life is going to look like. And even saying, when they ask me, when is this going to end, and be okay with saying, well, we're going to take it one step at a time, but I actually don't have the answer for you. So let's just be
Yeah.
in that
And
place
the truth,
where
no one does. And
nobody
what a
knows.
beautiful thing. I mean, that's why I love Eckhart Tolle's work. It's like,
Yes, yes,
this
yes,
isn't an exercise in being present. I don't know
yes.
what it,
I don't know what
because
is.
where are you going to go?
And if you
You can't
read,
go.
I mean, I'm a big Eckhart Tolle fan, and even if you really, rereading the Power of Now and A New Earth,
Yeah.
what he is theoretically talking about, holy smokes, we are living right now.
That's
And
exactly right.
again, I'm going to go back to a little bit of what again, I'm excited about the work that you're doing is that, he talks so much about the pain body, and you talk about the
Yes.
experiences that is part of, childhood and growing up and being a human being on this planet is so much identifying with pain. And the work that
Yeah.
he's doing and mindfulness work like meditation and gratitude and intention setting is really about unplugging your connection to that pain body and start to redirect that energy to the beyond that. And so again, the work that I didn't even know you were doing, but I'm thrilled that you're doing, is to give young people those tools to
Yes.
help identify, are you believing that your pain body is who you are, because you did not come
Yeah.
here to suffer. So
No.
wow, very
And what's
cool.
great about teenagers or, young people is that they're still closer to being more innocent
Mm,
so they can get back there faster.
yeah,
We have we
exactly.
have a longer journey because we've been doing
Yeah,
whatever habits we've been doing for so long. So it's
sure.
hard to untrench yourself out of the belief systems that we believed in them so long that they become like it's really hard to give them up. I mean, I
Sure.
think about my mother. Like my mother was just one of those people. It's just like she couldn't let go of what she had started to believe in way before she, you know, it didn't need to go on that long, but it
Sure.
was a different generation. And
Yeah.
with teenagers, it's just like, look, you're still malleable. The brain is still
Mhm.
not completely formed.
Sure.
There's still some elasticity to that brain that we can undo this lock in to what you're starting to believe about yourself. Because that is really when those negative pattern. I mean, it's when I was so self I judged myself so much all the time.
Yeah.
My body, my this, my that, nothing was right. I was so deeply insecure.
Mm.
Those are they're tough times.
Yeah, they're formative
And
seeds that go
those
inside
and
you.
that and they may seem vain, but when you're in that, that's the time of understanding, is our body who we are? Is it
Mhm.
so it's also a really good time to say, no,
Yeah.
you get to be whoever you want to be.
Yeah.
Forget what you're starting to believe or what your friends told you because of their own belief system.
Mhm.
Start cultivating your own belief system and who you can be
Yeah.
and who you already you
Yeah.
know
I love that. It's such important work. Well, I have no doubt that you and I will talk more about this, because it is
Yes.
such important work, and I'm happy to help you in any way that I can. It's funny, when I was in high school, I was just remembering, I hadn't thought about this in a long time, but I was part of a group called Project Life, and life stood for Living is for Everyone. And we would go into schools and do improvs, acting out
Yeah.
depressed behavior. Like we would literally, like, it was a service thing that we
Wow.
did where we would talk about, like, this is what depression looks like. And we would do these skits so that people would identify. And then of course we would provide resources. I hadn't thought about that in a long time. And
Wow. That's a really good idea. Because,
yeah,
my whole thing is I don't want it just to be about a show about sad stories. Kids either took their life or almost took their life. I
yeah.
want solutions. And
So
there are
absolutely.
solutions.
And I think that these,
People need to
and
know that you can be okay.
you can
You
be
can be
okay.
okay. There is recovery from being depressed. There is recovery from addiction. There
Hmm.
is recovery.
Right.
It's not forever.
It's
You
not
don't have to
forever.
stay in this state. And that's the problem with teens, is that the way they feel right now seems like forever. Like
Forever.
it's never going to,
It's all consuming.
because
And
they
I
don't
also
have a
think,
wealth of experience, because
yeah,
our life is like, oh, well, shit, wait 5 minutes.
yeah. Something else will come out and I don't remember what I was stressed out about last week, because I got something new. But I
Yeah.
also think there's some complexity here that even you and we didn't grow up with the internet. We didn't grow up with the addiction to cell
No.
phones. We didn't have the awareness of what that type of transference to a digital relationship. So people now can feel like they've got maybe 100 digital friends, but if you don't have one real friend, that can really cause anguish. And it can be, so I think that the
Totally.
playing field for young people now is so different. And
It's
even
so
in,
different.
we're the generations where we're kind of straddling two realities. So we're drawing from our own
Yeah,
experience, but it's so different. Like, I couldn't
it
even
is.
imagine if my
It
high
is.
school years were fully documented and broadcast online. Like, no, thank you. No,
No,
thank you.
thank you.
But,
Yeah.
we
No,
live in
it's
a different time, and it can feel terribly, terribly intense and devastating.
yes.
And so,
Absolutely.
yeah, so oh my God, thank you for doing that work. It's really
Thank you.
important. It's really, really important.
It is. It is. It's cool. It's
Yeah,
cool. Well, we'll
it's
have to
very
get
cool.
you
Well, we'll talk
to do.
more. But yeah,
Yeah.
we'll talk more, but it's
I love it.
thrilling. I just can't thank you enough for sharing your time, for
Thank
connecting,
you.
especially in this sort of time of heightened awareness, heightened feelings, heightened experiences. And I'm so grateful that we connected. And I encourage
Oh, I'm so
everybody.
grateful too.
Yeah, I'm going to provide links to your work, your books, the projects that
Thank
you're
you.
working on, and definitely stay connected. And if you want to go see the beautiful hikes that Mariel gets to go on, check out her Instagram. I'll put a, I'll put a link there.
There you go.
Because if you find yourself
Almost
in a
with me.
city, just drink it all in because it's quite
There
beautiful.
you
It's
go.
quite beautiful.
Aw, thank you so much. Thanks for having
Oh,
me on. Such fun.
oh, good, good, good.